Silent Hill has always been a series built on mystery, a place where fog and shadow hide more than just monsters. But beneath the deliberate ambiguity lies something else. Loose ends. Fragmented plot threads, unanswered questions, and ideas that were hinted at but never fully explored. These gaps aren't just storytelling quirks, they're the reason why the series has inspired countless fan theories over the years. For every unexplained symbol, every character whose story was left half told, every supernatural event that lacks a clear origin has fueled the imagination of the players. Some of these theories try to make sense of the town's shifting realities. Others speculate on unseen connections between characters, cults, or the other world itself. And while some theories are clever, others are wild and convoluted. Yet all of them point to the same truth. The Silent Hill we see is always just a fragment of a much larger, unknowable whole. In this video, I want to focus on those fragments. For every Silent Hill that I list here, there's at least one loose end that, if explored, could have drastically changed how we saw the story, the town, its power. These are the details that were left behind, not by accident, but by design, neglect, or circumstance. And the reason why the world of Silent Hill continues to haunt, confuse, and fascinate us today. Silent Hill 1 PTV. When you think of the original Silent Hill, drugs are probably not the first thing that comes to mind. Harry Mason's desperate search for his daughter takes center stage, with Alessa's pain and the cult's rituals shaping the horror that unfolds. But beneath all of that, running quietly in the background like a half-buried thread, is a detail that refuses to leave my mind. A drug trade, built around the mysterious substance called PTV. At first glance, it feels like a strange inclusion. A horror story about a haunted town doesn't need drug trafficking to set the stage. Yet, Team Silent chose to weave it in, to scatter references, police reports, and character connections all pointing to a narcotic running through the veins of Silent Hill. This choice wasn't an accident, and it begs the question, why? The substance is derived from a rare plant called White Claudia, a hallucinogen that grows near Toluca Lake. In Silent Hill's past, the plant was harvested by the Order and turned into a psychoactive drug used both ritually and recreationally. The game hints that the drug wasn't just about escapism, it was also about control. By distributing PTV throughout Silent Hill and beyond, the cult could extend its influence far outside its church walls. Money flowed in, believers were recruited, and minds were broken down and made malleable. In a way, this subplot suggests that the corruption of Silent Hill wasn't only spiritual or supernatural, it was also economic and chemical. The town itself was poisoned, its community weakened by addiction, law enforcement compromised, and businesses quietly tied to the trade. Kaufman's motel and the hospital are directly linked to the circulation, showing that the cult's grip extended into institutions people were supposed to trust. But most importantly, this wasn't just a story about people selling drugs. It was about a plant that, when consumed, warped perception. And in a town already infamous for warping reality, that overlap is too significant to ignore. The drug subplot touches more characters than most players realize. Officer Sybil, who arrives in town from the neighboring Brahms, was investigating the drug before she ever crossed paths with Harry. Her presence in Silent Hill wasn't entirely coincidental. It was tied to the narcotics trade spreading beyond the town's border. She represents the outside world noticing something is wrong, but like so many others, she gets caught in Silent Hill's deeper nightmare before she can uncover the truth. Then there's Dr. Kaufman, perhaps the most direct human antagonist in the game. A man of science on the surface, but secretly a cult enabler. His role in distributing the drug ties him to the corruption at the very heart of the town. He's not simply an opportunist, though. He benefits from the cult's money, but he also manipulates them for his own survival, holding onto the Aglaophatus vial as insurance in their rituals. His entanglement with the drug is proof that Silent Hill's evil isn't just supernatural, it's human, political, and greedy. And of course Dahlia Gillespie and the cult at large see the drug as not only a tool of profit, but as a tool of power. By spreading hallucinations and dependence, they could break down the individuals before folding them into their rituals. It's worth asking, how many townspeople were already under the drug's sway before Alessa's suffering gave Silent Hill its infamous curse? If DLC existed, or updates and patches and things of that sort for PlayStations, I would have bet my bottom dollar that a DLC would have come out explaining a little more about this, and due to the rushed nature and low budget of Silent Hill, this is one of those details that simply will be lost in time and they cannot go back and look into, which is unfortunate because this was one that stuck out for me even through my first playthrough. Even all these years later, I would have paid top dollar to see some sort of scenario or plot line in which the town is slowly coming to grips with the PTV and how it affected them. Maybe perhaps this is the reason why so many of the population are gone by the time Harry shows up for his fateful journey. Silent Hill 2. The Other Perceptions of Silent Hill. When we talk about Silent Hill 2, the conversation almost always revolves around James Sunderland. His guilt, his punishment, his monsters, and rightly so. His story is the backbone of the game, after all, a devastating exploration of denial and self-destruction. But James wasn't the only one in Silent Hill. Throughout the game, we meet 3 others trapped within its fog: Eddie, Angela, and Laura. And while the game hints at their perspectives, it never fully lets us step into their shoes. To me, that's one of Silent Hill 2's most haunting loose ends, because if we had, our entire understanding of the town's power could have changed. In Silent Hill 2, the town itself has been presented as a mirror, a place that shapes itself around the psyche of those who enter. For James, that meant grotesque creatures of guilt, obsession, and suppressed desire. But what about Eddie, Angela, Laura? The town wasn't empty for them. They weren't just set dressing for James' tragedy, they were victims on their own. Eddie is introduced as a man broken by ridicule and violence, mocked for his weight and snapped under pressure. Angela is a woman traumatized by abuse, carrying shame that no one else can understand. Laura, in contrast, is a child, innocent of the sins that define Silent Hill, untouched by its psychological weight. If Silent Hill truly manifests itself differently for each person, then these 3 should have experienced entirely different worlds from James. But we never see it. The game keeps us locked in James' perspective. All we get are small glimpses. An enemy Eddie claims is laughing at him, Angela staring into the flames James can't see, Laura wandering through the fog, and monsters as though nothing's there. These glimpses suggest something terrifying. The Silent Hill we see is just one version of many. Eddie's journey is perhaps the clearest example. We hear him say that the monsters mock him and that he can hear their laughter. But to James, these monsters are faceless, grotesque distortions of guilt. Not bullies, not mockers. Does this mean Eddie is literally hearing something James can't? Or is the town reshaping itself just for him, filling the fog with cruel voices? If so, we were never really allowed to see what Eddie saw. His Silent Hill could have been a carnival of mockery and violence, a nightmare where every corner echoed with ridicule. Angela's perspective is even darker, really. Her trauma isn't even about ridicule, but abuse, and the game implies her Silent Hill is smothered in flames. We see this when James meets her in the burning staircase, but for Angela, that's not just one room, it's her entire world. To her, Silent Hill is always on fire, an endless cycle of torment she can't escape. Imagine if the player had been allowed to experience Angela's world for even a moment, to see what the town looked like through her eyes. It would have made the town's power undeniable. Not a single nightmare, but infinite, each tailored to the damned who wander its streets. And then there's Laura. Unlike James, Eddie, or Angela, she sees nothing at all. No monsters, no other world, just an empty town. I mean, this makes sense, she's innocent, untouched by guilt or trauma, but what does it mean for the player? If Laura's perception is equally true, then Silent Hill isn't even a place locked in horror. It's a blank canvas, shaping itself only when someone carries its sins worth punishing. This is the part of the loose end that just sticks in my brain. Eddie, Angela, and Laura all point towards greater truths about Silent Hill, that the town doesn't have a single face. It's not one haunted dimension we all step in together. It's a mirror that fractures endlessly, warping for every soul that enters. And yet in Silent Hill 2, we never fully get to experience that multiplicity. It stays with James even as it attempts to give us glimpses of other horrors, other realities, just out of reach. What if the game had allowed us to step into their perspectives, even briefly? To see Eddie's tormentors leering through the mist, to walk through Angela's ever-burning purgatory, or to wander the town as Laura does, untouched and unafraid. It would have changed the way players understood the series. Silent Hill wouldn't just be a personal hell for one man, it would be a shifting, living force that contains infinite hells at once. But we never got the chance, sadly. We were left with fragments. And we understood the fragments. A laugh Eddie hears, a fire Angela sees, innocence Laura carries. Hints of the greater truth, but never true confirmation. And that to me is one of Silent Hill's most haunted loose ends, because if the town really does look different for everyone else inside of it, then we've never seen Silent Hill at all. We've only seen one reflection in a mirror that stretches forever. Silent Hill 3: The Missing Prologue of Harry Mason. When Silent Hill 3 opens, we're introduced to Heather Mason, a teenage girl unknowingly bound to the cult's prophecy. But behind the story lurks the shadow of another, Harry Mason, the man who survived the nightmare of the first game and raised Heather as his daughter. Harry is central to everything that happens in Silent Hill 3. His choices shape the narrative, his survival made Heather's existence possible, and his death sets her on a path back to the town. Yet for all his importance, we never see Harry's side of the story. His years of preparation, his paranoia, his inevitable end, all of it remains just out of reach. To me, that's one of the greatest loose ends in the series, the missing Harry Mason prologue. Harry's escape from the nightmare of Silent Hill should have been the end, but it wasn't. We're told he left town with Cheryl, now reborn as Heather, and tried to rebuild a normal life. Yet how do you move on from something like that? How does a man who saw his daughter consumed by occult ritual, who wandered through a town reshaped by suffering and trauma, ever truly find peace? The game gives us small details. He raised Heather alone, he stayed constantly on the move, he wrote in his notebook on how the cult would never stop hunting them. But we never see those years play out. Did Harry spend every day preparing for another nightmare? Did he train Heather for the possibility of being found? Or did he try and shield her, pretending none of it ever happened? This loose end isn't about backstory, it's about the psychological toll. Harry's paranoia wasn't unfounded. He knew the cult would come. And Silent Hill 3 opens with the result, Heather's life unraveling just as Harry predicted. But what we never see is Harry's struggle to keep her safe, the weight of being both father and protector, living with the knowledge that the horror was never finished. When Heather returns home to find Harry murdered, the moment hits hard, but narratively it's also really frustrating. Harry's death motivates Heather, but it robs us of any deeper exploration of the role in her story. He becomes a catalyst, and not much of a character. Imagine if Silent Hill 3 had opened with a prologue, a short playable section as Harry Mason. We could have seen him researching the cult, piecing together fragments of their plan, perhaps even catching glimpses of Silent Hill's influence reaching into their new lives. We might have witnessed his fears of Heather directly instead of just reading about them secondhand. Even a brief window into his perspective would have made his eventual death more than a shock. It would have been a tragedy. And it's not just about emotional weight either. Harry's perspective could have changed how we see Heather's journey. Instead of being dropped into her nightmare cold, players would have arrived carrying Harry's warnings, his paranoia, and his determination into the story with them. His voice would have lingered in every corner of the mall, every whisper of the cult, and every step Heather took towards Silent Hill. What unsettles me most about this loose end is what it implies about the series as a whole. Harry Mason was Silent Hill's first protagonist, the man who pulled us into the fog. Yet by the time Silent Hill 3, his story is over before it begins. We're left with scraps, his journal, Heather's grief, a body on a couch, his life between games, his relationship with Heather, his own unresolved trauma, all erased. And maybe that's fitting. Maybe Harry was never meant to be the hero twice. His story ended in the first game, and Silent Hill 3, it's Heather's turn. But I can't help but feel that we lost something by never seeing his side of things. Because Harry's prologue wouldn't have just been about him, it would have reframed the entire series. It would have shown us how survivors live after Silent Hill, how the nightmare follows you even after you escape. It would have made Heather's story not just a continuation, but the inevitable collapse of a fragile piece Harry fought to build. Instead, Harry Mason remains a ghost in his own daughter's story, a presence felt but never fully seen. And I think that's one of the most unjust things about Silent Hill 3. If they had opened with Harry's prologue, we might have understood not just the cult's persistence, but the cost of surviving Silent Hill itself. The last and final loose end, so to speak, is actually the most obvious loose end, and it's one that fans have talked about since Part 2 has come out, and that is connection. Connection between Silent Hill 1, 2, 3, short message, book of memories, doesn't matter. The connection. And a thought occurred to me as I was making this video and realized that while looking through my comments in my video about the alternate universes of Silent Hill, it's that even if there is a retroactive continuity change, or retcon as it's known, even if there is one now in this day and age, most fans will not accept it. Even if Konami says, hey, by the way, these things are now connected because of this new reason we just came up with, it will not be enough for the fan base to kind of nod together and say, okay, now they're all connected. There's nothing narratively that can push all of these games even remotely closer together. It used to be the town itself, but as you've seen, and the new trailers that have come out, and at the end of this month, we have a new Silent Hill that does not revolve around Silent Hill. Now, people have taken two different kind of branches, one being they simply do not accept the fact that it will not be about Silent Hill in some respect, and then there are others who say, okay, then it has nothing to do with Silent Hill. But the biggest loose end in the entire series is the fact that we have no connection with all of the Silent Hills. Now, I'm firmly against a nice, neat bow wrapped up around a gift box that is the Silent Hill plotline. I do not want everything to flow together like a Shyamalan movie. I don't want it to end like I guess a good version of this would be, I don't want this to end like the Saw franchise does, where no matter what happens at the end of the movie, you see a number of different scenes with new characters spliced into them to show that they were there all along, or a part of a thing, or a part of a plot line. I don't want that either. And I think it's safe to say there is no perfect way to do it. So perhaps they shouldn't. I am 100% on the fence with this one. The idea that everything should be connected is a big loose end. But do I want it rectified? I don't know. I would like to believe that there is a way you can connect all of it together so that all of it has a nice flow to it. But in the end, if you connect so many different storylines together, all of their rules will contradict each other and it will cause a bit of a paradox. The theories and thoughts and plot lines and things like that you had before will simply kind of disperse and turn into whatever the new developer has decided will be the storyline for Silent Hill. And then every subsequent Silent Hill after the fact, if they decide to change the rules, then that will be the new rules. Literary devices like the comic books, or say for instance the Book of Lost Memories, which were the natural Bible and go-to for Silent Hill fans, will become obsolete as a lot of their information inside will have turned into nothing. And for that, I believe the loose end will have to remain loose. In a perfect world, yes, we would get a Silent Hill where there's a man who can go to a hole in a wall and then essentially visit every single Silent Hill that ever existed. Sure. That'd be nice. However, I think it comes at the detriment of the plot line itself. Every story had its own thematic events, every story had its own course it was going to go, and once that course is completed, it felt like a complete story despite the fact that you wanted it to tie into Silent Hill 1 or Silent Hill Downpour. I have no need for the plot line itself to connect anymore, but I would be remiss if I didn't say it was a loose end in and of itself. Now, with parts 1 through 3, I have some pretty definitive loose ends that I need answered and would love and would pay bottom dollar, top dollar to get an answer to. But on the same token, as I went further along into the franchises, I realized there was nothing else that was a loose end because everything started going off on its own path. And because it went off on its own path, it didn't interest me like parts 1 through 3 did. Yes, I'm an old school fan. Yes, I like the old school Silent Hills. However, there are qualities about all the other Silent Hills I like too. While I don't share the same enthusiasm about Hatred when it comes to a lot of fans and things like that about, say, for instance, Homecoming or Downpour, there's still concerns. There's still things that did not resonate well with me compared to what Silent Hill 3 did, for instance. But there were enjoyable aspects. However, that mystery I noticed left after Silent Hill 4, that loose end feeling, that, but what about this feeling, that disappeared after Silent Hill 4. And it never returned. There was not a thing I needed elaboration on. Well, that is... Oh, you know what? There is one. Silent Hill, the short message. The Silent Hill phenomenon. In the world of Silent Hill, the line between reality and nightmare have always been tenuous. However, the introduction of the Silent Hill phenomenon in Silent Hill, the short message added a new layer of mystery to the series. This phenomenon, described as a global occurrence where individuals experience blurred boundaries between their subconscious thoughts and reality, leading to the manifestation of delusions, was a compelling concept. Yet, despite its intriguing premise, the phenomenon remains largely unexplained, leaving fans with more questions than answers. The SHP is first introduced through a document found in the short message, located in one of the corridors in a villa building. The document describes a global increase in suicides, partially attributed to struggles brought on by COVID, with countries still unsure how best to handle the issue. These trying times have also given to a rise to a strange phenomenon in many areas. Those affected suddenly claim to see fog on fair weather days and lose consciousness shortly after. This has come to be known as the Silent Hill phenomenon, named after a similar event that occurred in an eponymous U.S. town. An unnamed doctor at an unnamed university proposes a theory explaining why this should be happening. He suggests that to one who is psychologically unstable, fog represents uncertainty and sensory illusions. When in a state of high stress, one's vision may become obscured or tunneled, as if wandering through a dense fog or mist. Societal uncertainty or apprehension about the future manifests as fog, thus blurring the lines between illusion and reality. While this theory offers a psychological perspective, it leaves many questions unanswered. Why does this phenomenon manifest in such a specific way? Is it truly just psychological response, or is there a deeper supernatural cause? The document provides no further information, leaving the phenomenon shrouded in ambiguity. Despite its intriguing introduction, the Silent Hill phenomenon is not explored further in the game at all. There are no additional documents, characters, or events that delve deeper into the origins or implications. This lack of information is particularly glaring, giving the phenomenon's potential significance to the series' overarching narrative. The Silent Hill series has always been known for its complex lore and intricate storytelling, yet here it's just a concept introduced with no follow-up. This omission is not merely a missed opportunity, but a glaring loose end that detracts from the game's narrative cohesion. The Silent Hill phenomenon could have served as a bridge connecting various elements of the series, providing a unifying thread that ties together the desperate story and location. Instead, it remains on some sort of unexplored concept phase, potential untapped. The SHP stands out as one of the most egregious loose ends in the series due to its unexplained nature and its lack of information provided. Unlike other mysteries in the Silent Hill universe, which are often shrouded in ambiguity but eventually explored or explained, the phenomenon is kind of just introduced and then promptly abandoned. This abrupt introduction and lack of follow-up leaves fans with a sense of dissatisfaction and frustration. The SHP's unexplained nature serves to undermine the series' established narrative structure. It introduces a concept that seems significant, only to leave it hanging without a resolution. This not only detracts from the game's storytelling, but also it really diminishes the impact of the Silent Hill universe as a whole. But enough about me. What do you guys think? Are there any loose ends you know about in the Silent Hill franchise that you just are itching to get some answers for? Something you would have loved to have seen? I want to hear about it in the comments. Let me know. I definitely want to discuss that. As you can see in my other comment section, they are going rampant with Silent Hill theorists, going left and right, down and up, trying to figure out what's going on, and I love to see it. It's just good to see a lot of activity in the theory department without everybody absolutely biting each other's faces. It's nice. It's real nice. If you haven't already, I'm almost at 3,000 subscribers, and the views have been climbing and climbing, so more and more of you are showing up, and I truly, truly appreciate that. But most importantly, I want to thank everyone at Patreon or my YouTube members. You can get access to special content or older content that I have locked away in the archives. If you'd like to see some of that action and just overall support what I do here, go ahead and give that button an extra clicky click click. But in the meantime, just wanted to tell you guys thanks for everything you've been doing so far. Anyway, I'm getting out of here. You guys need anything, you know where to find me. Later.